Hello and welcome back to videos. It's a miracle. How did that happen? Nobody knows. Today I'm starting a new series which is Bukkit plugin tutorials. A few of you have been asking how I code and how they can get into it themselves. I am expecting very basic Java knowledge and you must have installed the Java developer kit, Eclipse, and downloaded Bukkit first. There'll be links to those in the description, but I just help with code, I don't do installations. Just to clarify first of all. Cool, so I use Eclipse as my IDE, my code editor. If you're not using that, then I can't help you with this bit and the way you set up projects, but most of it will be the same. You can use NetBeans or whatever you want. So I go in here and I create a new Java project, and I'm going to call it Bukkit Tutorials. We're going to go ahead and create our main package. And this package will contain everything we need for the plugin, so I'm going to call it generally what you do is unless you're part of an organization where you call it com.website.plugin. Generally with a person you're meant to put me.LukeWizzy.Bukkit tutorials. For now we're going to just set up our main class, so I'm going to call the main class main, because that just makes it easy for everyone. And we're going to start off by making an onEnable. Every single plugin needs an onEnable, and this is all generally I'd actually store in my main classes for my bigger plugins, because that way you can organize it in different ways, and organization is really key. So what this is doing, this is going to be the onEnable void, and an onEnable void starts up when the Bukkit plugin is called and it starts up. A void doesn't return anything, so that just means we're running something and we can do whatever we like with it. We need to of course extend Java plugin here, and I've completely forgotten to actually do what we're meant to do. You're meant to right click your project, go to properties, Java build path, and get to the libraries tab, and then add an external jar. We'll go straight to Spigot here, and most people will use Bukkit or Bukkit, and I'll link to Bukkit in the description, but I'll also link to Spigot because I recommend using Spigot. It's just a better and more advanced version of Bukkit. So we're going to hover over it and import Java plugin, and that shows that it's the main class and it's going to do everything from here. I'm just going to send a message when the plugin is enabled by getting the logger. So that's the Minecraft console, and what we're going to put in there, we're putting in an info thing. Otherwise you could put something like getlogger dot severe. There you go, down there we could show it a warning, whatever we want, but I'm going to give it some info and just say Luke's Bukkit tutorial, I can't spell today, plugin has been enabled. We don't actually need anything else in there at the moment, although we will later on, because the way I'm going to do commands, because I think organization is key, so I'm going to do it differently to how other people might in first tutorials. But it's just so that you get the idea of what you can do. You can put the command thing that I'm going to do right underneath the onEnable, or even above if you want to, but this is the way I do it to keep it organized. So I'm going to create a new package, and this is going to be a sub package, so you can do me.LukeWizzy.BukkitTutorials.commands, and that makes this bit here, okay? And then from there we'll go into the code. I've got to create a new class. We'll call it text command, okay? Because it's literally that's all it's going to do. Today we're just going to create a test command that shows text. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a constructor, which is main plugin, which means we can call methods from the main class that aren't static and things like that. That might not sound confusing, but essentially all it does is it shows it that that's the main method, and so it's the main class, and then the plugin is the variable. So if I wanted to reference something, I would call the plugin thing and do plugin.getlogger.info. I mean, you have to create a new variable for it, but we'll get onto that later. For now, let's just do a command. We're going to make a boolean, and a boolean returns true or false. So we're going to have to do this in a second. So the arguments for this are command sender, and then I'll make it a sender. That means that the command sender in this boolean that's entered is known as sender. Command cmd, same thing there. string label and string. So that's a group of strings. That's all the arguments. So say if you were to write /tp LukeWizzy notch, then the arguments would be LukeWizzy notch, because the command name is here, and we can quite simply check. I'm going to check first of all whether they're actually running our command or another command. So this is how you do it. You do cmd, which is the command up here, dot get name, which gets the name of the command obviously, and equals. There's an equals which will just see whether it's equal to it, or equals ignore case, which means that it obviously, ignores the case. It's very simple, but I use that, and you should as well. Otherwise it can get very confusing. Unless you want it so that it just has lowercase and uppercase letters, certain ones of those selected. Before we put anything in here though, I'm now going to create the plugin.yml, and what this does is this communicates between the plugin and Bukkit. So we're going to make a plugin.yml, and this shows all the information about a plugin, and let's just drag it in here, close all of this. So we need to show a main class, which is me.LukeWizzy.Bukkit tutorials.main. We also need to specify an author, which is me, LukeWizzy. We got to specify, let's specify these up here. We'll specify a name for it, which will be Bukkit tutorials, and a version which is 1.0. And you can also provide a description for it. This is the plugin created by LukeWizzy for his Bukkit plugin tutorial series. There you go. And that will show up on the help screen and everything. So you don't need to do anything with that if you don't want to have any commands, but if you do, I don't know why I closed it, because we do want to have them, then we also need to add in commands. So we'll do commands, and then just a little thing, don't do tab shift like that. It doesn't work as well as normal spacing. So we're going to go 2 spaces in, and or you can go 4 if you want, whatever you like. Test, another 2 in, and we're going to give it a description, just a test command. There you go. So that will work. And also something to note while you're in here is that has to be one word, otherwise it won't work. Okay, so we'll save that, and we'll go back into the code, because now we've registered that command, so Bukkit will realize that we have a command there. And to make the plugin, because now we've made sure that Bukkit gives control of that command to the plugin, now we need to give this class permission from the plugin to use it, because it's in a different class. If you did it in this class, you wouldn't need to do this, but I like to be over complex. So we're going to get a command, and we need to put the name in there obviously, so test, and then we're going to set executor new, and this is instantiating the class. This is saying this is what the class is, new text command this. And the reason that it has this here, is because of the constructor we made a second ago, which is public text command main plugin. So main is in there, and this is main. All makes sense. So because this isn't in the main class, again, we need to implement command executor. We're going to make a very, very simple plugin that just shows you text, and it's as simple as that. So what we're going to do for this is, to start with, we will just, when they do the command, it will send them a message. So sender.send, and you can use this command because it's a command sender and not a player. You can use this from the console or from a player. So there you go. Sender.send message, and we'll send them, this is a test. And if you want to put colors into that, we could go chat color dot gold plus, this is a test. And for those of you who don't know basic Java, the reason we put speech marks around every single piece of text is so that it recognizes it's not a variable. We could make public string equal public, why am I doing that, string, we'll call it anything, string test, this is a test, and then put that in. I'm going to teach you about arguments today, because obviously if you just type /test or /test list or /test AFDSM, whatever you want, it will just say that message. So we're going to go a little more complex. If you're not following, just stop there and test it, and if it's not working, then complain to me in the comments. I'm sure everybody will. But if it is working up to this point, bear with me and just try and follow this. So we're going to go if args.length equals 0, and what that's doing, that's checking that nobody's entered any arguments. And obviously the string args is up here. These brackets mean that it's multiple strings, so it's multiple words. So we're checking if the length of the multiple string word thing is 0. So essentially there's no arguments. And then what we'll do is we'll do an else if statement. So if it's not that, if args.length equals 1, we'll also check if it's a player, because this message we only want to send to a player. So if sender instance of player, and what that's checking is, because player is a command sender, it can send commands, so the sender could be a player. And so if you send this from the console, the argument that we're going to put in, it wouldn't work because it's not a player. So we're then going to create player. That makes sure it's a player, this bit. It can't be anything else now, because if we just put player sender, you'll notice that it says cannot convert from command sender to player. So we need to do that, and then we're going to send them a message saying player.send message. This is a test for players. Okay, and we'll put a color before that. Why not? Just to be fancy. And of course, what would happen here is if you typed anything after the command, if you typed /test /test hi /test whatever, that would work. So we also need to check, and I'm going to do that. This double and means if this happens and whatever's here happens, it will do something. You can do it in separate if statements if you like, but I'm just doing it here because it's easy. So args 0, you noticed up here how string args has these brackets around them. We can call different things from that string list in here. The reason I'm doing 0 is because the first argument is always 0. That's how it works in Java. It starts at 0 and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, up from there. So if it's equals ignore case player, then it will send this message. And it's also worth mentioning the way you export your plugin is you go up to the top, File, Export, and you click on that. You select Java and jar file, press Next, and then Bukkit Tutorials, and we're going to save it as Bukkit Tutorials in here. You could press Next, but you don't need to do anything like that anyway, it doesn't matter. Right, so you'll see here, it said Luke's Bukkit plugin tutorials has been enabled. So there we go, we know it's been enabled. So I can join the game and do /pl, and it's there. Okay, so then if we do help and Bukkit tutorials, there you go, test command. So if we do /test, this is a test, and /test player, this is a test for players. If we do it here, test player, you'll get nothing. But you can do test and it works fine. Hopefully this has helped you. If you need any of the code, then I'll be commenting it to Bitbucket, and I'll leave a link in the description to that. Otherwise, come back next time and I'll show you more. And next time we're working on event listeners. So if you have any idea what they, if you have any idea what they are, then you'll know sort of what we're working on. If you don't, then you'll learn something. See you next time.